Hi, Dale coming to you again from my temporary garage. My wife is a big Harry Potter fan, so for Christmas I thought that I'd make her this magic box and this magic wand. ALOHOMORA. In this video, I'll show you how I made both of them. Come on, let's go.
I first cross-cut the sides as well as the front and back of the box to rough lengths. I then run a piece through my planer to get it to about 3/16 of an inch thick, and I cross-cut that to rough length for the top and bottom. I'm using 1/2 inch pieces of mahogany for the box, and that's because mahogany is number 3 on the Godric's magical scale. Don't you just hate it when YouTube content providers tell you things that clearly everyone already knows? Next, I rip both sides and the front and the back to their final height. I'll be mitering the corners of the box, so I need to get my saw blade to 45 degrees. This is not always the easiest to do on job site saws. The SawStop job site saw has a quick tilt mechanism, but it's very difficult to dial in a specific angle with that. So they include this second knob to do fine adjustments 1 degree either way. Now it's time to put the miters on all the sides and to get it to its final dimensions. For this, I'm using my Incrim miter with a stop block to ensure I'm duplicating the sizes perfectly. Now I lower the blade to about 3/16 of an inch to cut the grooves the top and bottom will be in. Exact measurements are not needed here as we will cut the top and bottom to fit. Now I simply cut the grooves in all 4 sides of the box. I make the cut on one side of the piece, then rotate it and make the same cut on the other side. I do this because I want the same grooves for the top and bottom. Well, almost the same. More on that in a second. I use these grip pads so that I can keep constant and even downward pressure as well as hold the wood up against the fence. Once I have the first groove cut for the top and bottom on all pieces, I move the fence so that I can enlarge the groove. If you have a dado blade set, you can use that. It'd be much simpler. I don't, so I just have to make multiple passes. I used a scrap piece off camera to make sure that the grooves were going to be the perfect size for the top and bottom pieces. Once I have them all cut so that the top and bottom pieces fit snugly in the groove, I make the top groove a little wider, maybe 1/16 of an inch. I need that to make sure that the top piece will slide easily without having too much slop. I highly recommend that you take this time to sand all pieces. Sanding after assembly is going to be very, very difficult, even with magic. Now it's time to cut the top and bottom pieces to final size. Cut the bottom piece to be a good fit, but the top piece needs to be a bit smaller so that it can slide easily in the top grooves. Now for the cut that was making me the most nervous. Normally I would have used my bandsaw with the fence, but the bandsaw is broke right now. I don't want to use my table saw as my 1/8 inch table saw blade will remove too much wood. That leaves me with using my pull saw. You want to make this cut on the bottom side of the top groove, and you want this to be as square as you can keep it. A tip for keeping your saw square is to look at the reflection of the wood on the saw. You want the reflection from the bottom edge of the piece of wood to appear to be straight across the blade. If you see any angle in your reflection, then adjust the blade until it is square. Go slow, it's not as difficult as it may seem. Now a quick dry fit to make sure things look okay. They do. Now with my spooky lighting, I'll drill very small holes in the top groove of the back piece. This will accept magnets, which is part of the magic. Using Starbond CA glue, I glued 2 small magnets into those 2 small holes. You want to be very careful that you put them in the same way so the magnet poles are in the same direction for both of them. You can do a quick test by holding other magnets up against each of those. You will want opposing magnet force on both. Now on the back edge of the sliding top, drill 2 holes to accept magnets. These holes should line up with the holes in the groove of the back piece. There is not a lot of room on this piece for side-to-side play, so make sure you drill as straight as you can. Now I use Starbond CA glue again to glue in the magnets. Again, be very careful to insert them so they will be opposing forces to the magnets in the back piece. This is what will give the lid a bit of a spring when unlocked. Use BronkBuilt at starbond.com for 10% discount. I'll also leave a link in the description so it's easier on you. It's assembly time. You can see that I put some blue painter's tape on the inside corner joints as I want to minimize glue cleanup as much as possible. For this assembly, I'm using the old tape on the corners trick. I use this a lot when I'm doing mitered corners. Just get a good glue spread in all the joints. I'm putting glue in the bottom groove as well. I'm hoping that with the bottom piece being only 3/16 inches thick and such a small piece, I will not have anything to worry about with wood movement. I even got advice on the internet from this, and the advice I got from the internet was I had nothing to worry about. We all know that advice off the internet is always 100% rock solid. Take it to the bank, baby. My miters were not the best and my box was a bit out of square, so I decided to add these band clamps as well as an F-style clamp to pull it into square. I know this will leave some gaps in the corners, but we can fix that. The locking mechanism I chose to use is a small hinge, so I mark out where it will be and I use my Dremel with a few different attachments to carve out an area for it to lay in set. The small hinge didn't really work well at all, so I went to a bigger hinge. That didn't work so well either, but the middle one was just Goldilocks approved and was just right. I glued another small magnet on the hinge to give it even more pulling power. This is going to be on the bottom, so while not perfect, it will rarely be seen. To attach the final piece, I insert the top and allow the hinge to lock it in place. I use some Titebond Thick and Quick as well as some Starbond for a quick hold to keep it in place as the wood glue dries. As Maxwell Smart would say, those are the second worst miter gaps I've ever seen. No big deal though, easily fixed. I'm using the old sawdust and glue trick where you take sanding dust from the wood you're using and mix it with glue to make your own wood putty. Since you're using dust from the actual project wood, it should be a perfect match. Just mix it until you get a toothpaste consistency and then really work them into the gaps. Scrape off the excess and add more if needed. The rest will be easily sanded off. To make even tighter joints, take the shaft of the screwdriver and rub it up and down the outside miter with just enough force to close the wood fibers together. Do this before the putty mix has a chance to dry. Do this on all four sides and I think you'll be amazed at how good the joints will look compared to how they were. Let everything dry and then sand the outside and get ready for finishing. I'm using Helmsman spar urethane because that's what I had on hand. Make sure to cover the hinge with tape as you don't want to get any finish on it. In fact, after finishing, I sprayed the hinge with some colorless and odorless dry lubrication so that it would swing freely as possible. Now I can move my sights over to the wand. I'm using Walnut for the wand, and as you already know, it is the number 2 wood species on the Godric's magical scale. Let me know in the comments below if you know what the number 1 wood is on the Godric's magical scale. I start by drawing a rough shape, making sure I leave plenty of room to drill a 1/2 inch hole in the tip of the wand. In fact, while the wand is still in its rectangular shape, drill the 1/2 inch hole in the tip as it'll be tons easier. I normally would have used my bandsaw to cut this out, but like I mentioned earlier, mine is broken and I'm still waiting for it to get fixed. I started with my jigsaw and that did not go well at all, so I moved to my scroll saw. My scroll saw did a fine job, just a bit slower than my bandsaw would have done. Once the first cut is made, rough draw a shape on the other side of the wand and cut that out. You'll be left with a basic blocky shaped wand, which is perfect if you lived in a Minecraft world. Now for the really fun part. Grab your Dremel, and if you don't have one, you might think about getting one, as they really are a lot of fun and they're not really that expensive. But if you don't have one, you can also use a rasp for this step as well. Just start carving out the shape by removing all the flats and corners. Round things off, and remember, unless you are part of the super elite wizardly world, wands should be organic in shape and you really can't make a mistake here. Truly only happy accidents at this stage. I really had a ton of fun on this step. There's no right or wrong answer to the way you do it. Just carve it to what makes you feel happy. Now simply sand it all down. Since I use a fairly aggressive sanding bit on the Dremel, I started with 80 grit sandpaper, moved to 120, then finally 320. I then wet the wand, let it dry for the grain to pop, and sanded one more time at 320. For the finish, I decided to treat it like a cutting board and use normal mineral oil. Once it dried, I used some board butter, and man, did this turn out gorgeous. I got ahead of myself and almost forgot the last step. Back to my favorite CA glue, I used Starbond to insert a few magnets into the tip of the wand. I stacked the magnets so they are stronger to make the opening the box easier. Just like the other magnets, it's important that you put the magnets in the correct way. With these, they should pull, not push.
So here's how the mechanism in the lid works. You take the lid, and as you're sliding it on, you just kind of hold the hinge up with your finger as it goes over the box. Let it go. As soon as it's completely shut, it falls down, and then the magnet will pick it back up and allow it to come back out. Check it out. That was a really fun build. Here's the box. When you slide it shut, the hinge will fall, locking it shut. And this is the wand. I thoroughly enjoyed making this wand. It was so much fun. It's easy. You really can't make a mistake. You just have fun with it. I like it so much, and I'm probably going to make some more, maybe give them out to some of my other friends that are really Harry Potter fans. I can't say enough. It was a lot of fun. And now, the only thing left to do is to test it. ALOHOMORA. It didn't work. Wait, it's ALOHOMORA, not ALOHOMORA. ALOHOMORA. There we go. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked it, smash that like button. If you think somebody else will like it, share it. It really helps my channel more than you may know. Until next time, Evanesco.